Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Well, hi there, everybody. I have a feeling this is going to be a very interesting week. Again, I think we can feel that something serious is about to happen here. Kamala Harris is getting booed at her own rallies. This is embarrassing. This is a certain kind of special we're watching here. And, it's just bad. It almost makes one think that, again, it's so controlled to some extent, just based on, again, how embarrassing it all is. And I'm sure everybody's seen the footage. You have these fake doctors that were on stage at one of the Harris rallies, apparently, and somebody apparently started to pass out or had a medical episode in the crowd, and then, honest to God, the people wearing the white coats looked around at each other and said, "Is there a doctor in the house? Can we get some medical attention for this person?" And they're all just standing on stage looking at each other. Not a single one of them got off a stage and went to help somebody who apparently needed it. Who is believing any of this anymore? It is the worst. It's the worst thing we've ever seen. So, yeah, I don't know if this is controlled or not by good guys regarding her campaign. It might be. Or they could just be that stupid. They could just be this dumb and this unorganized and this pathetic. Again, we understand that she can't answer a single question. We know she's not professional. We know she's a pathological liar, among endless other things. But again, all of this is being caught on film. I mean, you have people leaving her rallies. This is on tape. People can see this with their own eyes. Again, the social media apparatus that exists in our country is so vast now that you have to completely be beyond brainwashed, if not suffering from serious mental and emotional trauma, to not actually see what's happening here. In fact, let me play some audio just off of the top. This is, apparently he's a comedian. You have a comedian actor by the name of Billy Eichner. Again, a Jewish gay guy in New York. He used to have a number of different shows, I think, on the Entertainment Network. Either way, listen to him here. He sounds, again, completely unhinged. And more specifically, which I think is really the sad part of all of this, is he's jabbed to the bone. I mean, there's probably no doubting that. He's still alive, God knows why. But either way, he says every single thing that you hear complete strangers on TV say. I mean, he says every single line over and over and over again in every talking point, and he just believes it. This should prove to people, I think, how effective the television truly is when it comes to bending the mind of a human being. That if you quite literally only take in, as a human, and certainly as a human brain, one wavelength of thought, which of course isn't your own, it's someone else's, and you just repeat it as if it's your own, then it's really not your own thought. It's not your own mind. It's not you as an individual making up your own mind as to what's actually happening in reality. People, again, we call them NPCs, we call them whatever we want to call them, all these different names. It should, again, prove to everybody brainwashing is very, very real. And this is a perfect example of it. Again, I even put another clip of Greg Popovich, the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs NBA team, up on my Gab and X account. I think it was bouncing around Gateway Pundit also. He sounds completely unhinged. Again, in full support of Kamala Harris, hates Donald Trump. How on earth can anybody vote for? I mean, it's amazing. The things that they say quite literally are not their own words, and they don't even know that. It's like they're just directly plugged into an actual television, and the words are coming from the TV into their brain, and then they're just saying it over and over again. Give Billy Eichner a listen here. It's very embarrassing. It's very sad. I mean, it truly is. You listen to these people, and they do not know what they're doing, and they don't know what they're saying. It's the illusion of an individual thought, and yet there's nothing individual about it. Give him a listen here in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, it's Billy. I don't post videos like this often, but I will regret it if I don't. It's 2 weeks till the election. I'm getting a lot of texts and feeling a lot of people panicking, and then other people saying, no, don't panic, don't panic. And I think those people are wrong. It is time to fucking panic, okay? And not just panic, but to do something about it. Because, like many people are saying today, the polls are not good. I'm just going to be blunt. I don't work for the Kamala campaign. I'm just going to call it like I see it. The polls are not good. Trump has the momentum. The man's a fucking rapist who's been raping and sexually assaulting women his entire life. He's a fucking Nepo baby, incompetent motherfucker who is mentally disintegrating in front of our eyes, and his voters don't seem to care. So it's going to be up to the rest of us, fucking sane people, to save this country, save the economy, save our most vulnerable citizens, working class people, women who don't have access to abortions, LGBTQ folks, anyone with half a fucking brain. The education department, which he wants to completely eliminate. And I don't mean, I don't care. People are going to be like, Billy Eichner's yelling at us to vote. Great. You can be annoyed at me, but that's not the point. Everyone has to get in the game here. We have 2 weeks. We can't let what happened with Hillary in 2016 happen again. This man is a fucking rapist. He was convicted of it in a court of law earlier this year, but even if he wasn't. So people saying, oh, Donald and Kamala, I see young people saying they're the same, or I hate him, but I don't know if I can vote for her. What the fuck are you talking about? Please get involved. He is a danger to the physical safety of American citizens everywhere, not to mention our economy and to our own control over our personal freedoms, what we do with our bodies, what gets taught in schools. He is very, very dangerous, and not in the cool fucking way that some of his fucking fanboys think he is. Okay? And I can feel it. I was out talking to voters yesterday. I did not like the vibe. So please do what you can here. You have to vote, especially if you're in a swing state. But we have to do more than vote. We have to knock on doors. We have to make calls or talk to your friends, text your friends, make sure they're voting. iwillvote.com, votesaveamerica.com, swingleft.org. Any of these places will help you help get out the vote or help you find out where to vote. Donald Trump, in his first term, managed to overturn Roe v. Wade and eliminate the right for women federally to have an abortion after 50 years. Can you imagine what he is going to do in a second term when he's more confident, has less fucks to give, is more empowered, and honestly seems more organized? Project 2025, which is truly horrific in terms of its goals, points to all of that. So please do what you can, because we will live to regret it if we don't. We have 2 weeks. We will live to regret it if we don't. Even the people voting for him will live to regret it. And that's it. Thank you for listening.
It's the best Donald Trump campaign ad anybody could ask for. I mean, he's so out of touch. He doesn't even know that the election is already over. He's so out of touch that he doesn't even know that the vast majority of Americans have probably already voted. And if they haven't voted yet, they're going to vote the rest of this week. I would venture to guess that the vast minority of Americans are actually going to vote on actual election day. Yes, there will be lots of people, no doubt about it. But with early voting already available to people, certainly more so than ever before, with just the encouragement alone for people to vote early, that alone was all that people needed. But again, every talking point he brings up, it's not his own. And I mean, think about how many people exist in America that are just like that. Even individuals, again, who might support Donald Trump but not even understand the multidimensional things that are going on behind the scenes with even his campaign. They just repeat some of the things that he says all of the time without understanding that there is some deeper meaning to some of it. And that we, of course, are only going to be told a certain amount. But when you think of things, again, on Billy Eichner's end, which I wouldn't encourage anybody to think too hard about it, because there's not a lot to think about, but you just hear him, again, blindly defending Kamala Harris, and he doesn't even know that the election is already over. It's finished. It was over before it even started. I mean, everybody, again, this has been, you're talking, hell, what's it been? 8 years now. It's been 8 years. We've had 8 years of Donald Trump. He was the lawful president in 2016, 2020, and he will be again now. And someone like Billy Eichner doesn't even know this. He doesn't even understand it. This is, again, what happens when you never change your company and you just consistently talk with the same kinds of people, or you're always surrounding yourself with the same kinds of people because you don't bother talking to other people. Him saying that he went out on the streets and started asking people about the campaign or whatever else, that's probably the most he's talked to complete strangers in quite some time. I understand he used to have a show where he did that on the streets for fun and would crack jokes and whatever else. But when you're talking about serious subjects with complete strangers, you would think that if you're going to do such a thing, then you would have to go home and reflect a little bit to understand why individuals think the way that they do. You have endless people leaving the Democrat Party permanently, which means it can really only push the Republicans, so to speak, and the right further right. Because that's, again, that amount of weight on the far right, which is probably where I'd put myself. But even so, all of us are really doing the hard pulling right now. Because we're forcing endless individuals who have never even paid attention to politics to all of a sudden pay attention to it. But then you have these stragglers, like Billy Eichner, who I don't care about. I mean, I feel bad. I actually feel bad for the guy. I truly do. You can see it in their faces. You can see it in their eyes. It is this unhinged desperation and panic. And again, you heard him say, well, this can't be like 2016 again when Hillary lost. I mean, you're watching the systematic destruction of the old guard. This has been in the works for a long time. That was a Q post among many. It's a very real thing. I find it fascinating that human beings can blindly make fun of something, like all those Q posts, for example, and never spend a second actually looking into it. Their brain and their mind is so closed that when they hear references to it or someone brings it up, they immediately just dismiss it, instantly. And then you, of course, look at them and say, well, have you ever read any of them? And they go, well, why would I want to do that? Well, don't you want to know why hundreds of millions of people all over the world read those posts as they were coming out? Doesn't that seem kind of important? In fact, let me give everybody just 2 examples here. Here's one that's kind of important, and this lays out a number of different things. It's a very short post, but it directly implies that this is a military operation that has been going on to destroy not just the Democrat Party, but expose endless people. Again, before I read this post, think of everything that we've been watching here, certainly over the last month, I'd say, with all these so-called celebrities and all of these, again, musicians, if you want to call them that, and whomever else. I mean, all of these individuals coming out of the woodwork to support Kamala Harris and get on a stage and play a guitar like Bruce Springsteen. These people, again, they don't understand that when they do that, it's cringe beyond cringe. It's just so embarrassing that they still think that they have influence with people, if they ever even had it, but that they have influence with people based on political issues. Well, I didn't know what I was going to, what stance I was going to take on this particular issue, and I didn't know who I was going to vote for, but thank God for Eminem and Beyonce and saying that I need to vote for Kamala Harris because they are too. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't know what to do. I mean, seriously. It's so embarrassing. In fact, it's so embarrassing, as again, in the business of being fair here, let me play it on the other end. On the other end, on the proverbial right, so to speak, you also have Sean Ryan of the Vigilance Elite Sean Ryan Show podcast, okay? He talked, of course, to Donald Trump about a month or so ago at least. Plenty of views. Okay, fine. He talked, of course, with Theo Vaughn. Same thing. Months ago. Long interview. Lots of questions. Lots of, heartfelt discussion about the state of the nation and personal issues and a number of other things that's great. Then he goes, of course, on Joe Rogan. Lots of things get discussed. Lots of topics. That's fine. No problem. I don't know whose mind it would change in one direction or another. But you had Sean Ryan then get on X and put a video out on his X account where he basically says, Donald Trump's already won the election. It's pretty clear that given the fact that he was on Joe Rogan's show that it's all over with now. And you're watching basically the complete destruction of the Democrat Party. Well, no kidding. But he's acting like this is a new thing, and he's acting like that only started to happen, or only happened, just within the last 48 some odd hours from when Donald Trump was on Joe Rogan's podcast. No. This has been a military program and an operation, a multi-dimensional warfare operation to destroy an entire ideology that is believed by endless people. That's really what it's about. It goes beyond a political party. The political party is just the representation, so to speak, of all of these satanic ideologies, abortion and the brainwashing system of education, and you can pick one. Yes, we know that both sides love war, but they only like it because there's money to be made in it. And they have to keep up, of course, their blackmailers, and they have to keep their blackmailers happy and everything else. That peace is not profitable, so they think. When in fact, if people start to come to the realization that peace is the most profitable thing on planet Earth, well then, that would be fantastic if they'd come to that realization, but it truly is. But for Sean Ryan, again, to get out there and be like, oh, well, this is over. We're watching the total destruction of the Democrat Party now just because Donald Trump was on Joe Rogan. No, absolutely not. This destruction of this political party and these ideologies have been going on for decades and decades and decades. And endless people, I might add, rest their souls, are dead for trying to continue to expose these satanic ideologies that are held by these people. Because it's brainwashing. That's a very difficult thing to crack through. You're talking about literal brainwashing. If you, again, take Billy Eichner and you listen to him, go back and listen to it one more time. Close your eyes and just imagine him rocking on the floor in a padded room in the fetal position, sort of back and forth with his knees to his chest, holding his knees as close to his chest as humanly possible, and saying what he's saying. That's the image that pops in my head because he sounds like a mental patient. But that's brainwashing. That's exactly what it is. So again, nothing against Sean Ryan, but he didn't hang the moon either. But the fact is that this has been going on for a long time. And Sean Ryan, of course, has a big show, and he's on YouTube, and he never gets strikes, and he never gets kicked off of YouTube. Hell, the Rothschilds themselves own half of YouTube, as far as I know. I heard that the other day and thought, okay, their entire family is partners with YouTube. It makes perfect sense. They have to keep a certain wavelength of thinking going. But even so, Donald Trump's profitable to even them to some extent. Donald Trump's good for business. And a lot of people know that, including the enemy. So, yeah, this is not new. Let me read this Q post now. I've got two of them to read, actually. This was post 3387. This was on July 9th of 2019. It had a YouTube link at the very top. It says, listen very carefully again. It says, note past 2 years. Keep in mind this post was from 2019. Note past 2 years. It says, note next 6 years. You were told what was going to happen. You were told what battles we face. Strategic, planned. Patriots in control, Q. Now, what's interesting is if, again, you click on the YouTube link on that particular post, it takes you to YouTube, but the video's been deleted. And that's rather common, actually, with a lot of these Q posts, is that every single time that Q would make a particular post or link to a particular X account or a video that they wanted somebody to watch, it wouldn't take long before, again, those particular platforms, those social media platforms, would delete the particular post or delete the video or whatever it is that that we were being encouraged to watch and listen to. If memory serves, I remember the video, and it was essentially a campaign video that someone put together where it was Donald Trump talking and then a bunch of imagery in the background having to do with, again, back in, it would have been 2016 when he was still running for president, before he was president, at some of his rallies where he's talking again about giving power back to the people, taking the corruption away from the individuals who control the money in the business, and again, giving it back to the people and all of that stuff. And again, it makes perfect sense. But in the post, it says, note next 6 years. Well, 6 years from 2019 is 2025. So this operation is most certainly coming to an end here. And it doesn't necessarily start and stop with Donald Trump. We were even told that there's plans for after Donald Trump. We're not going back, is the whole point. The Billy Eichners of the world and the Greg Popoviches of the world and all these other people who are going to get real angry and lose their minds just over Donald Trump. They don't even know. I mean, they can't even think 5 minutes in advance of what is actually happening. We're talking about years of advancement here, hopefully, that again will certainly take us to a place that's going to be far better, hopefully, than anything that we've ever seen. That's the hope, of course. But again, these are the kinds of people who are going to get left behind because it's getting too embarrassing for them. If I was to make, for example, a superficial, comparison, I guess, it would be like if you were in grade school and one particular year everybody's just kind of playing the same game. Okay, that like there's a particular game that's being played that lots of other people play. I remember when I was in middle school, at least it was like this for, I want to say, maybe a semester is all. But people would play Pog, or, play with Pogs. I don't know if anybody recalls what that particular game is. It was kind of stupid. And students, of course, they would gamble with it. And I did too. You gamble with your lunch money and whatever. And it's basically like a dice game, but it's not with dice. It's with these little cardboard discs. And then you stack them up, and then you'd smack them with, I believe, what was called a smacker or something along those lines. And it's basically it's basically marbles, essentially. It was basically like a 1990s version of marbles. And I'm not knocking marbles either. I mean, I've played marbles too. Certainly, a long time ago. But the point is, it would be as if everybody was playing that one particular game for a set amount of time, and then they just keep playing when no one else is really playing anymore. And then you sort of look at them like, aw, that's sad. You're still playing that game? People don't play that anymore. That's not even a thing. But then you look at them and they look at you like you're nuts, and you're looking at them like they're nuts, and you can't both be right, because that's false equivalency. So it's the people, again, who are not evolving, that are not going to make it, the people that are not reading, the people that are not going backwards in time and investigating and connecting dots and a number of other things. This is going to be a problem for the people that don't do that. And it continues to be a problem for them. It's amazing. Just this blind following of one side or another. It's not, it's not about left or right. It's about what is the truth. And then understanding that that can be complicated. It can be remarkably simple as well. But it takes individual thought and investigation. And of course, changing your company and not, consistently talking or listening to echo chambers or in echo chambers. I mean, you have to change the people you're around, but the people who never do that, I mean, God help them, but they're lost. Here's another one. And this is an interesting Q post because this was the very first one that came out. It came out on October 28th. So you talk about a delta of some kind. Well, this is an interesting delta because this would be Monday morning. This coming Monday here on the 28th. It says, let's see here. Yeah, post number 1, October 28th, 2017. And they repost one of their initial posts where they just say, Hillary Clinton will be arrested between 7:45 a.m. through 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Monday, the morning of October 30th, 2017. Then below it, it says HRC extradition already in motion effective yesterday with several countries in case of cross-border run. Passport approved to be flagged effective 10:30, October 30th, at 12:01 a.m. Expect massive riots organized in defiance and others fleeing the U.S. to occur. It says USMs, you assume militaries, or military, will conduct the operation while National Guard activated. Proof check. Locate a National Guard member and ask if activated for duty 10:30 across most major cities, unquote. Again, I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but I do know that that was the post that got a lot of people's attention. It got a lot of people's attention online initially, and then, of course, those individuals who were on the deeper parts of the internet at the time looking at these posts as they were actually coming out were moving these to more mainstream outlets. And then people started to ask serious questions. So again, I don't know if that's actually going to happen or not. I've heard him downplay arresting Hillary Clinton and saying that he could have, but he didn't. I've heard even people say that Hillary Clinton's already been executed and you're watching a body double or something along those lines. I have absolutely no proof of that whatsoever. I have none. But we do know that we're seeing her a little more often. And we've seen her a little more often. And again, she's equally as unhinged as she's basically always been, assuming that's really her. And I tend to believe that it is. But we do also know that the National Guard has been federalized, that they're not controlled necessarily by the state, that they are actually controlled, and they certainly were when Donald Trump was president. They were controlled under the federal government. So at the direction of the individuals who were in charge of the federal government, certainly the commander-in-chief and the real military behind the scenes, they would be able to activate the National Guard no problem. And I remember, again, I think I even read it on this show, there was one individual, again, discussing with one of their family members who happens to be in the National Guard, and they said that they've been activated and that they've been deployed to a particular city. They can't say where, they can't say why, but they've gotten orders to, again, remain activated. I don't think that's ever really gone away, but I just think a lot of individuals who are in the National Guard, again, are on duty. And of course, they're always on duty. I fully understand that, but, who knows? Time will tell on stuff like this, but as you've heard me say, it has to be public. This kind of stuff has to become public when it comes to these major arrests. And again, of course, the crimes in which these individuals have actually committed, and we know what they are, and we know how severe they are. Very famously, again, Crimes Against Children Clinton Foundation was on Fox News. And again, if memory serves, that specifically had to do with the Inspector General's office of the Department of Justice in D.C., Michael Horowitz, if I'm not mistaken, having to do with, again, an investigation that he was conducting. But again, that popped up on the screen. So again, do people not know that? I mean, are they unaware? Are they actually unaware of the depth of the crimes having to do with the Clintons and what they've done? I mean, I don't know. But even so, you have to arrest these people. These people have to go. You can't give these people any kind of a deal. You can't give these people a second chance. As I said again in the last episode, and I ended up putting it out on Substack because I think it's remarkably important when it comes to, again, the federal laws having to do with voter fraud and the federal investigations that have to take place. One of the key takeaways in that, so I think anyway, at least in my opinion, is deterrence, the use of deterrence as being, again, one of the massive strategies that gets used when you're talking about a level of illegality that is so broad and so vast that it's almost impossible to arrest everybody. But what you do have to do is you have to arrest people, but these people have to be well known, and they have to be people that have been in the public eye, and they have to be individuals that, again, everybody's relatively familiar with, certainly from a visual or auditory standpoint. We know what these people look like. We know how they sound. They've been a part of our society for XYZ amount of time. And now they're going down for this massive crime. You've heard me say also, just like Oprah. Oprah is one of the huge linchpins in this entire thing. When it comes to child trafficking and human abuse and human trafficking and sexual grooming, I mean, she's a pimp. She's an actual pimp. Now think of the Billy Eichners of the world and how much they love Oprah. I mean, hell, I think at the very beginning of the Joe Rogan podcast, Oprah was mentioned in like the first minute of that entire podcast episode. I mean, of all the names to bring up right out of the gate, he starts with The View and then he mentions Oprah. And then Donald Trump says, yeah, I was on her show, whenever it was, one of the last weeks that she was having her show way back in the day. Interesting reference, interesting timing. But again, we have to see this. People have to know what these people have done. And that's not only deterrence, but that's an educational piece. People will flip out, but they're only flipping out because they don't know what they don't know. Even though the visual evidence is everywhere. It's all over the internet. But that too is how you destroy the old guard. That's how you bring down not just political parties, but that's how you show people that there's corruption on all sides and that there is just the truth. So, yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on the whole thing. In fact, that kind of leads me to this. I mentioned, of course, last week, the business of that Atlanta branch of the AFCEA, where the Homeland Security, Cybersecurity, and Infrastructure Conference was about to take place. As it turns out, the conference has now been canceled because of course, numerous pressure from individuals like ourselves online, paying attention to this, bringing this to people's attention, and of course, people emailing them, calling them, getting in touch with them over social media, asking questions. How on earth could you do this? This is highly suspicious. What the hell is wrong with you people? A number of other things. So here's what they actually said. Here's their full statement. It says, after careful consideration, AFCEA Atlanta, a chapter of AFCEA International, and its event production partner Federal Business Council, FBC, are postponing the 2024 Homeland Security, Cybersecurity, and Infrastructure Conference originally scheduled in Atlanta for November 6th through 7th, 2024, and a pre-conference tabletop exercise during setup on the 5th. A rapid and unanticipated rise in rhetoric and threats stemming from disinformation about the purpose of the event and its proximity to Election Day contributed to the decision to postpone. It goes on here again, and I'll read the whole statement, but that right there should have told them, how stupid can you possibly be? Or again, did you actually have something planned? Which, by the way, it's not that something still wouldn't be, who's to say? But, there's numerous theories out there, again, having to do not just with cybersecurity and internet outages, which of course has always been a long-standing theory. But it brings into account also all of these drills that were taking place last week. One very famously on the 21st of October in Washington, D.C., where they were running a drill for if a plane hit a building. and you can hear the sirens in all these buildings and surrounding buildings in the Capitol building, and they're all going off, and some people are walking out, or they've already left, or whatever it is, because again, Congress is pretty dead right now. Everybody's pretty much on vacation. So, the buildings are generally empty. But even so, why would you run a drill at that particular time for that specific of an event? A plane dropping out of the sky and landing into a building. By the way, that is a technology that does exist. The remote-controlled aspect of airplanes, that is a thing. Again, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't know. But that is a thing that does exist. Anyway, their statement went on here, and they said the following, quote, "Out of abundance of caution, and because a number of government agencies are unable to participate, we made this difficult decision so that we can deliver a high-quality and meaningful event with deep and rich engagement across industry, government, and academia, and full participation by all stakeholders." Again, if you knew that government agencies weren't going to participate on these days, why would you have it on these days? It just makes no sense. They say, "We apologize for the inconvenience and are exploring options to reschedule the event. We will reach out directly to all participants with details, including information about transferring existing exhibits, registrations, and sponsorships. Updates will also be shared on the AFCEA Atlanta Chapter's events website, on FBC's website via email, and on social media. Your registration will be automatically transferred to the new date. When the date is announced, you'll have the ability to accept or decline per our normal process. Thank you for your patience, cooperation, and understanding." They said AFCEA International and its 139 global chapters remain committed to providing a forum for the ethical exchange of information and increasing knowledge through the exploration of issues relevant to its members in the defense, homeland security, and intelligence communities. FBC specializes in producing meetings, conferences, and trade show events for federal government agencies, the Department of Defense, and intelligence community. FBC is a woman-owned small business and is known for producing on-site, in-agency industry expositions, off-site agency conferences, and meetings of all kind, unquote. Just stupid. It's just dumb. Why, again, the timing was awful. And the simple fact that they wouldn't even think that there would be public blowback on any of this should tell people that citizen journalism, so to speak, is in full force. I mean, we are in complete control here. I wouldn't call myself a journalist per se. I'm a guy who does a lot of research and reads a great deal and shares it with people and encourages people to think. I would never go so far as to call myself a journalist. But even so, these people apparently can't even understand a calendar. I mean, again, at face value, it just looks suspicious. They must think that American citizens trust government and that American citizens trust three-letter agencies. We don't. I thought that was well known. Apparently not. Now that one leads me to this too. I thought this is kind of interesting, and I wanted to, again, bring this to people's attention. I'm not sure if I brought this up on the show or not, but a while back, I want to say maybe, 2 months ago, I suppose, I ended up acquiring the Hunter Biden laptop book, which was put together by Marco Polo and this particular organization. And what was interesting about it is as the Hunter Biden laptop news was starting to make the rounds again, I want to say about 4 some odd months ago, I thought, well, you know what I'll do is I'll look into whether or not this book is still available online. And I thought maybe, my dad's a big reader as well. I figured I'd get it for him as well. And I got on Amazon, and it was available, and it was available for $60. Now, of course, it's arguably one of the dirtiest books you're ever going to see because it's everything that was basically in Hunter Biden's laptop. It's all in this book. But it's not just pictures. I mean, it's emails. And a lot of the pictures, again, are blurred out a little bit so that you're not seeing everybody's genitalia and everything. But even so, it's a gross book, but it's remarkably incriminating, again, when it comes to communications and what he was communicating with regarding other individuals. And then, of course, who was in receipt of these emails that were going back and forth. But anyway, I got on Amazon and I looked to see what the book actually cost. And again, they were asking $60 for it. I didn't buy it at the time, but it wasn't long before it was completely gone off of Amazon again, and they were completely sold out. So then I thought, well, I'll check out eBay, and I'll see if it's on eBay. I bounced over to eBay, and as God is my witness, there were people selling the Hunter Biden laptop book for $2,500 to $3,500 for one copy. And I thought, good Lord, I mean, I'm certainly not paying that. That'll never happen. But I thought, well, maybe it'll just make its way back to back to Amazon someday. And sure enough, a couple months later, it was back on Amazon. So I got a couple of copies, and I don't flip through it at all, but I do have it just because it's interesting political history to have. Either way, as it turns out, again, Kamala Harris is in the book, and she's in an email exchange. And so I bounced over to Marco Polo's Substack channel, which is marcopolo501c3.org. This is one place where you can check it out. Of course, they do have a Substack. But it was titled, Kamala is in the Biden laptop. It says the emails from the abandoned device are a new Rosetta Stone, and they're never going away. This is put together on October 25th. It's rather short here, but here's what it says. It says, last week was the 4-year anniversary of the Biden laptop expose by the New York Post. We have since published the most complete dossier on the comments of the abandoned device, and the American First family is trying to shut down our group with egregious and expensive lawfare because of that comprehensive dossier. It says one of the common misconceptions about the material from the abandoned device trumpeted by people on the left and the right is that they classify the Biden laptop as a so-called October surprise, quote-unquote, implying wrongly that its impact and relevance, is limited to a single month. This misdiagnosis is born out of ignorance in most cases, or malice in some cases, especially on the left, about the nature of the abandoned date found on the device. It says this misconception can be refuted by simply searching through our nonprofit's first project, BidenLaptopEmails.com, a database which has been utilized by more than 10 million people across America and the globe. It says in the press release announcing the database, which was covered by no less than 25 outlets across the globe, we described the 128,000 emails on the Biden laptop as a modern Rosetta Stone of white and blue-collar crime under the patina of the Delaware way, quote-unquote. It says prior to the discovery of the Rosetta Stone, a number of ancient languages were mere gibberish and harsh marks. Similarly, the emails on the Biden laptop illuminated previously convoluted webs of people leading the charge for global governance. Truly, the emails can be considered a translational tool for open-source intelligence gathering. In other words, the sheer breadth and depth of people, places, and things, directly and indirectly alluded to in the email database, spans much more than a single month or even year. That's why the scandal just won't go away, quote-unquote. It will not go away for multiple reasons. Number one, because Marco Polo exists. But more importantly, because the emails reveal the true and oftentimes sinister or criminal actions and motivations of dozens of powerful people beyond the Biden family. This cabal, made up of Republicans and Democrats, continues to run the American government. As just one example, the current Secretary of State, who spearheaded the 51 former spooks quote-unquote letter and committed perjury to the U.S. Senate, and his staffer wife are implicated by the email database, and you can surmise that they will both be in the American executive branch should Kamala get pushed over the finish line. It says, said differently, the emails from the Biden laptop are a portal into the world of the swamp. This portal likely possesses the finest granularity of the swamp in American history. That is why we are so passionate about spreading our findings across the fruited plains, as we have done and will continue to do. They go on here and they say, consider another example of the breadth and depth of the emails. Kamala was considered for a board member slot on the Beau Biden Foundation for the Prosecution of Children. Yes, an entity bearing that name unironically exists and was written about extensively in our dossier. It says, along with the fact that Beau Biden's widow accused Hunter Biden, who she was sleeping with, of being, quote, sexually inappropriate with her then underage daughter. Beau Biden's widow and Hunter were on the board of the foundation around the time of the widow's multiple allegations. And there's a particular email here, which is dated January 22nd of 2016. The subject line is board calls. And this goes out to also Kamala Harris, among many others. Again, it's sent to Hunter Biden from a Joshua Alcorn. And yeah, it's by a Joshua Alcorn here, who again has phone number, email address, the whole thing. But again, they're considering Kamala Harris, and they have her entire cell phone number here also, as again being a potential member of this board. It goes on here, it says, in addition to the Beau Biden Foundation board seat option, Kamala's campaign reached out to the foundation with an offer to buy the latter's email lists, a likely FEC violation. Something the Biden camp, and specifically Mel Monzak, the president's power of attorney, knows all about. It wrapped up and it said, the vignettes above are just two examples of the putrid nature of the swamp. The Biden laptop story, rather, will never end because the swamp never stops trying to lie, cheat, and steal, and Marco Polo will be there to chronicle it all. Let's see here. Here's the second email. This was sent on the 30th of December of 2015 from Joshua Alcorn to Hunter Biden. And the subject line was email list. It says the following: just an FYI, Kamala Harris's campaign reached out. They'd like to pay us about $1,000 for access to the email list. The money would go to the campaign, then be transferred to the foundation. Seems like a good thing to do, and we would work out a way to get some names and emails from her once her general election is over. This isn't a foundation issue, just a campaign wrap-up issue. If either of you have objections, let me know. Thanks, Josh. I believe this is when, or she was running for Senate, if memory serves. So there you have it. Again, very plainly put, I don't think the Hunter Biden laptop or the Hunter Biden laptop book is one of those books where you're going to want to look for your name and actually find your name. Not exactly a good book to be in, if you catch my drift. So again, just to sort of wrap up all this election talk, it's already over. It's just over. And anyone with a brain can clearly see that. It's just a matter of making sure that everybody stays safe, certainly Donald Trump, his family, and that entire campaign, and that human beings do the exact same. Because individuals, again, who are voting across the nation are hitting roadblocks with certain individuals who are running these polling places. This is continuing to be a thing. Of course, very famously, just the other day, a snapshot of an elderly woman who was wearing a Trump shirt was told that she can't wear the Trump shirt, apparently into the voting place, and so she took her shirt off, and she voted anyway, and she was cursing at everybody. I mean, that's awesome stuff. It's awesome that she was defending herself and standing up for herself, but again, I don't understand. I really don't understand the clothing, that you can't wear clothes of any political persuasion one way or another. I don't understand that. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. There's endless signs already outside of these polling places, right next to the front door, practically. What would a T-shirt or a hat have anything to do with anything? Everybody knows who they're there to vote for. I mean, nobody's going to walk into a polling place, stand in line, and go, "Well, I've decided to change my mind." It was the person in front of me wearing a Trump hat. And that's really what did it. That was the tipping point. I was going to vote for Kamala, but I saw that hat at the very last second, and I hit Trump on the machine instead. Give me a break. I mean, that kind of stuff is ridiculous. So I would love to see that go away in the future just because it's embarrassing. So there you go. Okay. 2 education stories here, both equally as embarrassing. And again, continuing on the same wavelength of the brainwashing that has been going on here, across the world, I might add. And it's also a subject that I've brought up on the show before. This happened last week, and this is from the Daily Mail, and it was titled, "The Huge Number of Medals That Female Athletes Have Lost to Trans Opponents Allowed to Compete Against Them Is Revealed in UN Report Highlighting Women's Loss of Fair Opportunity." Essentially, long story short, is this. It says that it revealed that over 600 female athletes had lost over 890 medals, it says, across 29 sports. It says the paper didn't elaborate on what sporting events the medals were won or over what time frame. It says transgender athletes who have won gold medals in sporting events include Canadian cyclist Veronica Ivy, became the first transgender cycling champion when she won gold at the UCI Women's Masters Track Cycling World Championships. It says another transgender athlete is American swimmer Leah Thompson, give me a break. And it just goes on and on with these other examples. Again, it's beyond embarrassing. I'm glad that more and more people are walking away from sport in general. I'm glad that more and more people are forfeiting their games and saying we're not going to play if there's a tranny on the other team. Again, if you don't give these people a stage, then they can't engage in the thing they want so desperately to engage in. It's the easiest example of voting with your feet. And that if you just vote with your feet and you walk away and you don't participate, then the entire charade ends. They're not going to award these individuals if you're not there to play. It's just like in the LPGA. There's a man who has won an LPGA tournament before in the past, and this individual is attempting again to qualify for the LPGA again, and a bunch of LPGA female players are saying, we don't want to compete against this guy, because the simple fact that they're there proves that they're going to take some female's position when in fact they're not a female. This is not good for business. I mean, it's not even good for any watching audience, and I don't know anybody who watches the LPGA, but even so, I'm sure some people do, and some people attend those events, but I can't imagine endless people supporting such a thing. Certainly not in the future here, and not in this new world that we're trying to create, which is hopefully a reflection of the old one that we used to live in that was a little more civil, and had some common sense. But either way, continue to walk away from sport in general. And yeah, if a dude shows up pretending to be a woman, don't go along with it. Because the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And the simple fact that some people would still participate in such a thing, well, you're sort of indirectly supporting that individual's pretend time. So yeah, it's gross. Now, speaking of gross, also, let me get to this. Jesse James sent this my way last week, as this happened on Thursday of last week. And this continues to prove, again, the brainwashing that exists among endless people, and how they will consistently revisit these horrific school environments, not knowing how easily manipulated everybody within these environments is, including, of course, the surrounding area, into believing endless things that the school district openly says. Now, this specifically has to do with another fake threat that was called in anonymously to the Oxford community schools, specifically Oxford High School, where, of course, Ethan Crumbley killed 4 students. With that said, as you've heard me bring up in the past, and ironically enough, they mentioned this in the 4-hour-long board meeting that Jesse James and I attended back in February in Oxford, Michigan. This business of these phone calls that get made and these threats that get made, whether it be a gun threat or a bomb threat or whatever it is. These people can't comprehend that anybody can use a VPN to call in these threats. And I I wouldn't put it past three-letter agencies, of course, to do this, and we know that they do. Same thing with local law enforcement. Same thing again with local politicians. Heather McDonald, for example, the prosecutor there in that county, she's running again for office. So all this does is of course, re-traumatize the brainwashed individuals. It's Pavlov's dog all over again. But what they're doing again is I wouldn't, again, put it past even Heather McDonald to be the one who called in the fake threat using a VPN or somebody that she's associated with. Because again, if this reminds individuals falsely that the school knows how to engage in a lockdown, or that everybody's safe and don't worry, we came to everyone's aid and we helped everybody. Again, manipulating these people is so easy to do, but it's only easy because they're brainwashed. And the individuals, again, who are conducting these ritualistic, traumatic operations, they fully understand it. But I don't understand why people just aren't waking up and saying, okay, look, our children can read and write, they can teach themselves. We don't need to be a part of these drills all of the time. We don't need to be subjected to all of these lockdowns and everything else. Not to mention, before I read this, and this email that went out and text message that went out from the Oxford Community Schools, I want to run through a scenario of this actual event and what it would have actually looked like, and what it may have actually looked like in such a scenario, in particular, I should say, if staff members were aware of what the real threat was. So here's what they said first. They said, "Dear OHS parents and guardians, Oxford High School is currently on lockdown due to the receipt of a phone call that there may be a weapon in the building." They don't specify which weapon. Okay, is it a trident? Is it a mace? We don't know, but we're on lockdown nonetheless. It says employees have secured the area for which they are responsible. Well, that would, of course, be their own their own classrooms. It says no one will be permitted to enter the high school until further notice. Please do not call or come to the school. Police are on site searching the building. Additional information will be communicated to you as soon as possible. It says following Alice protocols, some students evacuated the building and are convening at Meijer, the grocery store. It says if you received a communication from your child and they are at Meijer, you may pick them up there at this time. We have employees present at Meijer with students as well. Sincerely, Oxford Community Schools. Now, again, before I run through this scenario, which again, I think that entire post is a bit embarrassing. This is from the Oakland County Sheriff's Office on Facebook, and they said Oxford High School is in lockdown out of an abundance of caution. We traced the threat, believed to be swatting, quote unquote, to the Netherlands. Even so, we are making sure that the school is searched and cleared. Sheriff Buchard, if that's his name, said, quote, every threat will be fully investigated and we will always seek to hold the responsible accountable. We have even worked with partners in Europe to prosecute people in the past, unquote. Well, good for him. You're never going to find these people. You won't find it. In particular, if it's the sheriff's department themselves. What if they made the phone call? It's not like they'd tell you, and it's not like you'd ever find out. Which means ritualistically traumatizing anybody in that town who is brainwashed and falls for these kinds of things on a day in and day out basis. They're ripe for the picking when it comes to stuff like this. Now, yeah, Ethan Crumbley really killed and wounded people in that building. I'm fully aware of that. And a lot of that, of course, was the fault of the actual people working in the district and in the building at the time. Not searching his book bag. I've been over it a million times, and you're well versed in it, I'm sure. Even so, this is the problem. So let me run you through a scenario here which is completely outrageous. And you talk about, again, ritualistically traumatizing endless people. Let's say, for instance, and you have to keep in mind also, all of the devices that exist in these classrooms that are purposefully intended to basically lock the teacher and the children in a classroom. So you pull on the curtains over the glass partitions between, again, the
the door in the hallway or the classroom in the hallway that are, again, usually attached to the door or next to the door. So you cover those windows as quickly as humanly possible. They also have a locking system with their door that's basically like a foot brace that goes into the ground or locks the door into the ground so that if somebody kicks the door or, I don't know, shoots at the door or something, that they can't get through the door. So they have this device also. But what if the weapon, and let's assume, for example, it's a gun, a loaded gun, is in the possession of a child, a student, so to speak, inside of one of the classrooms? A lot of good, all of that, preemptive, preventative measures regarding the door and the glass, and we don't want them to see in here. I mean, a lot of good that's going to do. Not to mention, if there was an email communication that went out to the staff members that told them that there might be a gun in the possession of a student, and a staff member reads that on their computer in the classroom that is filled with students, what then? Does the teacher look at all of the students and say, okay, look, we just got a threat that there's a student in the building with a gun. And then what does the teacher do then? The teacher then, of course, is looking around at all of the students. All of the students are looking around them. All of the students do what then? Does the teacher tell the students to put their hands, keep their hands out of their pockets and out of their bags and keep their hands on the tables so that the teacher and everybody else in the room can see the hands of everybody on the tables and that there's not a gun in anybody's hands? Is this the level of ritualistic trauma that actually has to exist? Now I'm gonna bring in something here that again some people might recall. If anybody's ever seen The Dark Knight Rises, the second Batman movie with Christian Bale, where of course the Joker is the main bad guy in that particular movie, so to speak. That right there, this entire scenario was played out in that movie. You may recall that in that movie, the Joker again basically set up a scenario where there were these two ferries, and both of these boats were filled with people. There were criminals on one boat, and then there were citizens on another. And they basically gave them the choice. Do the criminals blow up the innocent citizens, or do the innocent citizens blow up the other boat filled with criminals? It's ritualistic trauma. It's designed to, it's a sociological experiment and a psychological experiment. It's designed, again, to not only create fear, but create pressure, and then create a high level of distrust. Because if there's a higher level of distrust, then you're more likely to have chaos. It's also a bit of an obedience to authority. It is quite literally probably carried out again in order to trick the individuals into believing that this is a safe environment run with competent people, when clearly past events have proven that the Oxford Community School District is filled with some of the largest retards in the face of the planet. And then they ran cover for each other. But they're not alone. I'm not just picking on them. That's every school district. That's the way that it works. They allow for the trauma to exist. They allow for the chaos to exist. They allow for the lack of accountability to exist. And then what are you left with? You're left with more of the same. You're left with the gaslighting. Don't worry, this is a safe environment. You all can trust us. We've handled this. Thank God for our Alice training, because without it, we don't know where we'd be, and blah, blah, blah. The home learning family doesn't have to deal with any of this. But that's the matrix. The matrix is keep going into these environments. The matrix is keep sending your children to these environments where these unpredictable things, which only happen, by the way, in school environments. They don't happen in banks, by and large, unless they're being robbed, and that doesn't happen very often. They don't happen in general work environments, but they do happen in schools, don't they? It's because the schools are the playground for the bad guys. The schools are the playground for indoctrination camps and those who love indoctrination, which, again, is why when you hear anybody say that schools are not indoctrination camps and that's derogatory and that's absurd, Is it? Is it really? Indoctrination doesn't just have to come from poor instruction or misguided instruction from unknowledgeable people regarding subject matter that isn't real, like teaching about dinosaurs and ball earth and all this other bullshit. It's not just that. It's government manipulation. And using a VPN to call in a bomb threat or a gun threat or what have you is arguably one of the easiest things to traumatize everybody in the environment with. Just like they did back in the day with duck and cover. Get under your desk for the nuclear bomb threat and all that other nonsense. And then, of course, all the tornado drills where we all had to go into the hallway and stick our asses up in the air with our heads in our lockers. It made no sense. It made zero sense. Why are we safer in the hallway with our asses up in the air with our hands over our heads as opposed to sitting in a classroom? It's about trauma. And the number of people, again, who then jump on social media and virtue signal is astounding. He was sending me these Facebook posts, and I want to read you some of these because they're nuts. These people are crazy. This is the Oxford, Michigan Community Forum on Facebook, which, by the way, this happened on Thursday. They ended up canceling school on Friday, the very next day, because of this. It just traumatized too many people, and we have to close school. You shouldn't be going anyway. I don't understand. Here's one post, and again, the thread that follows it with 31 some odd people commenting, and they're all saying the same crap. It says, after the day everyone has had today, I wished that Oxford would consider having no school tomorrow for a mental health day. So emotionally drained, wishing everyone a peaceful night tonight. Someone said, and Ashley Rice said, so drained. I can't imagine what our kids feel. Elisa Marie said, I am hopeful it's a day off tomorrow. A Rachel Lynn said, I completely agree. I have an emotional hangover. You are a hangover. Listen to these people. Another comment here from a Nicole Squires said, between the incident and COVID, my son did not receive a fair education at all. So we're going to keep taking education away from these kids for blah, blah, blah. And then it got cut off. Here's another one. See who this is from. A Kelsey Laselli, I guess. Part of this got cut off. My apologies. But it says, not in your stomach drop when you hear of another lockdown. If you've seen the fear in the eyes of students or staff, then you understand this on a deeply emotional level. These are not just headlines. There are communities' reality. No. Nope. Wrong again. This isn't reality. It's fake. And you're being used. And as long as you participate, you're going to keep being used. So stop participating. It says we have the power to change this, but it starts with each of us. I urge you to research candidates. This is where it gets nuts. Because then they turn this into a gun grab. You can't even make it up, because one thing has nothing to do with the other. They said, I urge you to research candidates and policies that prioritize sensible gun laws. Not extreme, not polarizing, just laws that protect our communities while respecting the rights of responsible gun owners. Our vote is one of the most powerful tools we have to reshape the future, and it's vital that we use it to protect those we love. It has nothing to do with a person using a VPN and calling in a fake threat. Which could have been from this woman, for all we know, a Kelsey Laselli. It says this is more than a political issue. It's about reclaiming a sense of safety and trust in our schools, in our public spaces, and in our daily lives. Let's honor those who are impacted by this trauma every day by making sure our voices are heard at the polls. Our kids deserve better. Our teachers deserve better. We all do. You're retarded. These people, again, they're not well. Like gun laws would have anything to do with any of this. Here's another person. It says, it's 3 a.m. and I'm awake. Brady Cooper and their friends are all asleep around the house. It makes my heart happy, still trying to decompress from yesterday. Get over yourselves. These people are mentally ill. It says so scary and so much on these kids. Did they cancel school today? And yeah, they did. They canceled it. They canceled it on Friday. Here's the last one he sent me. This is from Oxford, Michigan Election Information and Talking Points from a Madeline Swan. They said yesterday's events reminded us how easily our community's peace can be taken away and made fresh our fear and grief. It says, now remember that Josh Shriver voted against a law that requires guns to be in a locked container if there are children in the house. This man chose to not do that on his own after 2021. He does not deserve to be our voice in Lansing. Unquote. And then they show a picture of this guy. So they used a virtual protection network fake phone call for a weapon which wasn't specified, that probably didn't exist in a school, to become a political tool. William Cooper warned us about this. He said these people are so crazy, they'll take any school-related issue and turn it into a gun grab. What does this have to do with guns? Absolutely nothing. So in conclusion, regarding education here and that certain story, I will say this. I want people to understand just how easy it is to traumatize these people in these environments. The vast majority are brainwashed, which means it's easy on them, no problem. For the rest, who aren't brainwashed and work in these environments, all it does is just piss them off. They hear a fire drill, they go, my God, really? Did somebody just pull the fire alarm, or what is this about? A tornado drill in December. For absolutely, again, no reason whatsoever, because of all of those December tornadoes. Completely embarrassing. Why even do it? And then, of course, these virtual protection networks being used for an anonymous individual to make an anonymous threat. And then, of course, the sheriff's department and local authorities will never catch these people because you can't. And as I said at the top and in previous episodes, what if the call is coming from actual law enforcement themselves? What if it's coming from political operatives? What if it's coming from state politicians? These people will never be investigated. It'll never happen. But it's being used as a political tool, and it's of course happening right before an election. Having multiple schools shut down and go into lockdown because of a virtual protection network anonymous threat across the nation all at once is the easiest thing to do. It's embarrassingly easy. And I'm absolutely shocked that people just continue to buy this. They don't understand the depth of evil that exists in the world we live in, which makes them, of course, the ever-present victim of said evil. You hear them in their Facebook posts. We don't deserve this. No one deserves this. This is hard on all of us and we can do better. Then leave. Leave the environment. That's how you can do better. But they're stuck to the matrix. The cord is still in the back of their neck. The plugs are still down their spine and in their elbows and arms and legs. I mean, they're hooked up to the matrix tighter than a drum. These people won't leave. They think this is normal. It's the only environment where things like this exist. I mean, when was the last time you were in a grocery store and somebody came over the PA system and said, ladies and gentlemen, we have to go into lockdown. There's been a bomb threat. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a gun threat. There's a weapon on site and everybody needs to stay put in aisle 5. And we don't want anybody leaving, so we're just going to go into lockdown. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in high rises. It doesn't happen in any other line of work. It happens in this line of work, education. Because again, these environments are ritualistic trauma sites for government. It's government's plaything. And parents aren't learning. A lot of them are, which is great. But man, we have to sit around and watch the ones who aren't awake. And that's a hard thing to watch. Okay. Jab stuff. Just a couple of things. This was kind of funny. Last week there was a story and a study that came out regarding the trans community and estrogen shots and puberty blockers and things of that nature. So the whole puberty blocker community, we'll call them, a certain group of them put together a study having to do again with whether or not these shots were beneficial. And as it turned out, the results came back in their study and openly stated that yes, puberty blockers are not beneficial, that they harm people and even kill them. Well, I can't believe I actually have to say this, but that would be like putting a study together saying that taking a staple gun to one of your testicles isn't going to be beneficial. So we've conducted this study among 190 testicles, and we shot all of them with a staple gun, and wouldn't you know it, the results came back rather negative. I can't believe that anybody would actually think that puberty blockers would be a good thing for anybody. This is why you have individuals cutting off their own genitals. This is why you have individuals pretending. It's all about not just puberty blockers, it's about inoculation, vaccinations, and again, changing DNA and changing reproductive organs and changing the makeup of your brain. That's what these shots do. It's what all shots do. It's not just one kind of shot, it's all of them. So, yeah. I mean, what's their next study? Is water wet? Or ice cubes cold? I don't get it. The lack of common sense is alarming. That's putting it mildly. There was this, though, on the jab front. This comes from sfgate.com. AJ sent this my way. I also saw this. This, again, is promising. We'll see how this turns out. But it says 6 former BART employees are each due a $1 million payout after accusing the agency of wrongly firing them because of a COVID-19 vaccine mandate. Uh-oh. It said on Wednesday, a jury in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California sided with the employees who refused the vaccine for religious reasons. BART had been ordered to pay the group more than $7.8 million, with the individual employees receiving between nearly $1.2 million and $1.5 million each. In October of 2021, BART's board of directors approved the mandate, stating that all employees must be vaccinated against the virus, though it allowed for some exceptions, including religious accommodations. It says in a class action lawsuit filed in October of 2022, there it is, class action lawsuit, also in the Q drops. It says employees said BART granted the vaccine exemption but denied accommodations. Some accommodations, which fall under California's Fair Employment and Housing Act, could include job restructuring, job reassignment, or modification to an employee's work. To work from home or have regular COVID tests, for example. Well, those are fake. It says when employees refused to receive the vaccine, they were fired. Between October 14th of 2021 and February 16th of 2022, approximately 179 employees submitted requests for COVID-19 religious exemptions, and 70 of them were approved, the lawsuit stated. But of the 70 employees who received an exemption, the plaintiffs said none were given a religious accommodation. See, this right here is awesome because you've heard me mention this before and you're well aware of this too. This is what happens when you use discretion. This is why the whole exemption process, fill out your exemption, your jab exemption. This entire thing was a fly trap. It was a total ruse. There's no way that you offer an exemption, it gets filled out, and then you accept some and not others and don't get caught. So the question becomes, why are you accepting some exemptions and not all of them? The very presence of an exemption implies that you're giving everybody the ability to exempt themselves from participating in this giant lie and injecting themselves with a biological weapon. But to not accept all exemptions is just guilt on the organization itself. Again, they fell for it. They fell for a huge legal trap, and now they're paying for it, which I love. It said in a statement, the Pacific Justice Institute, the law firm representing the 6 former employees, said one of the employees had worked at the agency for more than 30 years and had a 10-year streak of perfect attendance. History backs up on them yet again. It said, quote, all rail employees chose to lose their livelihood rather than deny their faith. That in itself shows the sincerity and depth of their convictions, unquote. Kevin Snyder, the lead attorney in the trial, said in the statement. BART has, quote, no comment on the verdict. James Allison, a spokesperson for the agency, told SF Gate. It said the agency is already facing a major financial deficit of about $300 million to $400 million per year, but state funds are expected to lessen the deficit in the 2025 fiscal year from $307 million to about $35 million, it says, unquote. Now do American colleges and universities. Now do private schools. Now do any K-12 schools that attempted to force individuals into taking the COVID bioweapons. Again, class action lawsuits. These places would crumble in the blink of an eye. Get together former employees. We were fired because we wouldn't wear the mask. We were fired because we wouldn't take the shots. I filled out all the exemptions. They were all denied. That person has a perfect lawsuit. It's amazing. They didn't learn it at the time. I mean, the writing was on the wall. It was a total setup job. Absolutely incredible. Okay, 2 more things very quickly. Sean on SGT Report had a doctor on, and I've seen this guy before, and I've seen his presentation before also, but he claims that zeolite as a mineral and or supplement substance can be used in that it dramatically decreases the amount of metal and metal toxins that exist in our bloodstream. And he, of course, offers his particular brand of zeolite on his website. I'll link it in the description below if you're interested. Again, there's no guarantee that it works. I'm sure that they, of course, have that information on their own website, but I've seen his presentations before, and they have charted it apparently and measured the blood of individuals where it shows, again, a lot of heavy metals that would exist inside of a person's bloodstream have been reduced upwards of 60 to 30%, which is a good thing. The claim he makes, of course, is that it reduces the nanotech inside of individuals' bodies who have been, of course, jabbed themselves or been shed on. So either way, I will link the description of his website, or a link to his website, rather, in the description below. Here's the next thing. This was a guest on Stu Peters last week, and this individual's website is thisistreason.com. It's a documentary having to do, again, with human trafficking, specifically at the border, and the work that he and his partners have done regarding this, and who, of course, is responsible. I have a piece of audio I want to play here from when he was on Stu Peters' show, and it's not surprising, but very alarming, and certainly, again, not surprising to this audience, because he brings up Jewish Family Services, rather, as being one of the largest traffickers, if not the largest bidder of human trafficking that exists, certainly that is border related. So give this a listen very quickly in 3, 2, 1.
But what is the most shocking thing that you think not even this audience really realizes about what's actually happening here?
Well, something that you'll take a liking to. The largest NGO contractor that our government was cutting blank checks to. These are no bid checks where there's no other organizations or anybody else bidding on that contract. It's just this organization says, hey, this is our price, and our government writes them a check. Jewish Family Services was getting $600 million no bid contracts from our government. And when JJ asked him, like, oh, was that like once a year? How often was it? He's like, no, it was like every month or every other month. Our government is just writing blank checks to these NGOs that are trafficking children, and Jewish Family Services was at the very top of it. And this is the gentleman who was actually sent to Washington, D.C. So government organizations have different pay scales. You have like GS-10 all the way up to like GS-18 or whatever they actually top out at. And if you take these temporary assignments, you can go to Washington, D.C. for like 6 months or a year. And then when you come back from that temporary assignment, you get topped out in the GS pay scale, and then you kind of get to pick your assignment. So this gentleman was a confidential human source. I don't want to say what organization. I think we just said CBP in the actual documentary. He took that temporary assignment to Washington, D.C. So he said he was in Washington, D.C. and he was sitting at a table and he walked in there and there was FEMA, there was CBP-1, there was Border Patrol, there was DHS, there was HHS, and all these bigwigs sitting around a table. And they were just like, oh yeah, Jewish Family Services, $600 million. And then he said, at first, the NGOs came the first round of checks. It was like, okay, yeah, $600 million to perform this set of services to house these children or house these illegal immigrants. He said the second time they came back, that they knew that they had the United States government wrapped around their finger. And they're like, oh, we told you $600 million? Oh, well, that was just to house the illegal immigrants. It's going to be another $30 million for same-day laundry service. It's going to be another $20 million for this. It's going to be another $10 million for this. They were charging us and billing us $2,000 per COVID test, Stu. And you're probably like, oh, well, maybe they got to send them off to a lab, and these labs are expensive, and they're price gouging because it's the government. No, these were instant COVID tests. So every time a migrant left that facility and came back, they were billing our government $2,000 to swab their nose. And trust me, bro, there's no oversight here. It's just, we swabbed them, so trust me, $2,000. So when we open up a new facility and we already billed you for the 1,000 migrants that we're storing in this facility, on January 1st, we billed you. On January 2nd, we open a new facility. We're just going to move all those migrants over to the new facility. We're going to bill you $2,000 per COVID test because we're going to have to COVID test them all. And he said, we are just shuffling effing bodies. His words exactly.
We are an occupied country. End of story. We are an occupied country. And this has to stop. These organizations have to cease to exist. Period. They are guilty of the highest and worst crimes imaginable. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening as always. I'll catch you on Wednesday. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.